brethren. We meet again as we continue to reiterate on the 4 thrones that we saw last week. We saw that there are 4 thrones that were brought up clear by the Bible. As we just recap what we're talking about, we saw a throne in Revelation chapter 22, which in description was a throne of God and the Lamb. And we said that throne is where Christ went when he ascended and is on the right side of the Father. So that's the throne. It's got a pure river, yeah, and the tree of life on both sides, yielding fruits, 1 fruit every month. And we saw that the 1 fruit comes on new moon. Now, we saw the other throne in Revelation chapter 4, which the description was clear that it was different from the other throne, which is the universal throne, or the throne of God and the Lamb. The throne in Revelation chapter 4 is a bit different. It's got 24 elders. It's got one who sat with hair like jasper, who is the Father. And we saw that that same throne is what Daniel also saw in Daniel chapter 7, verse 9. And we saw that is the throne which was set. The description clearly said he saw a throne being set. So the throne which was set, we saw that it was in 1844. So we saw that there were other 2 thrones which were mobile thrones. These 2, the throne in the universal throne of God and the Lamb, is stationary. And also the throne which was set is stationary. But we are talking now of the other 2 thrones, the 3rd throne and the 4th throne that we discovered. The 3rd is in Ezekiel chapter 1, and we read it and we saw how it was not stationary. So we said it was a mobile throne. And also in Isaiah chapter 1, verse 6, chapter 6, verse 1, we saw another throne, which was also mobile. We are now going to dwell on the 3rd throne. We dwelt much on the throne, the 1st throne, which is the universal, and also the 2nd throne, which is the throne which was set in 1844. Now we want to see the 3rd throne, which we said is mobile. It's in Ezekiel chapter 1, verse 4. This is what we are going to consider now, the 3rd throne, and have the description thereof. Ezekiel chapter 1, verse 4. Start from verse 4.
Verse 4.
Yeah.
And I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, a great cloud and a fire enfolding itself.
So the fact that it's enfolding itself is mobile. Coming from the north, enfolding itself. And we saw how it will fill up the whole thing. So it's mobile. You understand? So let's read a comment from TN 1 space 10.1. Now let's read from there. The fact
that the whirlwind enveloping the throne came, says Ezekiel, shows that this throne, just as with the one of Isaiah 6, is a moving one.
So this is enveloping itself, it's moving. It's different from the 2 stationary thrones, the one of the universal throne in Revelation 22, and also the throne which was set in Revelation chapter 4, which is said it was set in 1844. But this one we are seeing is moving. Now let's hear more there. Read.
And that it came to the banks of the river Chebar. Moreover, the seraphim that bore the throne had 2 wings, which they did fly, which cements the point that this throne is a moving throne.
Now, we are seeing also in Isaiah that the throne had wings. And this, in Isaiah, it was saying 2 wings were covering the head, and 2 they could fly, and also 2 covering the feet. it was to fly, so it is mobile. Right? And let's hear, moreover,
the seraphim that bore the throne had 2 wings, which they did fly, which cements the point that this throne is a moving throne.
So it's clear. Go to Isaiah chapter 6, verse 2. It's clear. Let's hear.
6 verse 2.
Uh-huh.
Above it stood the seraphims. Each one had 6 wings. With twain he covered his face.
Right.
And with twain he covered his feet. And with twain he did fly.
Now, that's why we are seeing these 2 thrones, the third one and the fourth one, are moving thrones. That was it to describe that they are different from the other 2 which are stationary. So we have 2 mobile ones who are moving. Now let's see the purpose now of the judicial throne. We saw the judicial throne. The judicial throne. Let's read from there in Great Controversy. It's a GC 88 space 415.2 in the second estate. Read, in the temple.
In the temple in heaven, the dwelling place of God, his throne is established in righteousness and judgment. In the most holy place is his law, the great rule of right by which all mankind are tested.
Right.
The ark that enshrines the tables of the law is covered with the mercy seat, before which Christ pleads his blood in the sinner's behalf.
We are told exactly what is in the throne above. That's why when Moses built the tabernacle on earth, was told to make a copy of what he had seen in heaven. So Sister White is also describing that in the temple in heaven, the dwelling place of God, his throne is established in righteousness and judgment. In the most holy place is his law. So the law is found in the most holy place. So when you say Christ entered the Holy of Holies, that's where the law is. Of course, the laws, so many people don't know how many laws God has. They only concentrate on the commandments. But if you go to Nehemiah chapter 9, verse 13, it will tell you that there are 4 laws. And these are the laws that were given to Moses. 4 of them that had nothing to do with the killing of the lambs. Read Nehemiah chapter 9, verse 13.
Thou camest down also upon Mount Sinai, and spakest with them from heaven, and gavest them right judgments,
1
and true laws,
2
good statutes,
3
and commandments,
4.
and madest known.
So you see exactly, there are not only commandments in the Holy of Holies. There are all 4 laws which were given to Moses. These have nothing to do with the killing of the lambs. These are eternal laws which stay there. That's why when the statutes, like the new moon, we see in Isaiah chapter 66, is still kept in heaven and kept also in the new earth, showing that the statutes or the festivals are eternal. They are not only temporal, like what people say. They are there in the law, in the Holy of Holies. They are there. But that's why the purpose of this study is to see what is established in the Holy of Holies. We have seen, Sister White says, the law of God is there. Most people analyze and conclude and say, the law of God is only the 10 Commandments. Once they hear the law of God, they only think of the 10 Commandments. But the new moon, the statutes are God's laws. These are eternal. They have nothing to do with the killing of the lamb. These are the times God is worshipped. Most people think God is only worshipped on Sabbath. He has the statutes which are having the laws of his government. Like even in the earthly governments, we find they've got statutes. Holidays, bank holidays, all the holidays that they put. These are their statutes. Independence Day, These are the statutes of the covenant. God also have his own laws or the statutes. So the whole term saying law involves all of the laws, not only the Ten Commandments only. That's why he sends Malachi, in Malachi 4, verse 4 to 6, he sends Elijah to put these other extra laws, the judgments and the statutes, which are the festivals, to make sure all the laws are kept together. This is what heaven has in the covenant. Now here we are being told that the law of God is found in the Holy of Holies, right? So it says, that ark that enshrines the tables of the law is covered with the mercy seat before which Christ pleads his blood in the sinner's behalf. So when Christ entered the Holy of Holies, that's why Daniel says, unto 2,300 days shall the sanctuary be cleansed. So we are looking at the sanctuary in heaven. It's got all the laws. So when he is there in the Holy of Holies from 1844, he sees people concentrating on the commandments only without these laws. That's why he sends a messenger to bring these laws to the people, so that the people are keeping the laws which are all found in the Holy of Holies. Now let's go to another chapter there, a great controversy again, GC 88, space 421.2. As in the typical service, listen to that.
As in the typical service, there was a work of atonement at the close of the year. So before Christ's work for the redemption of man is completed, there is a work of atonement for the removal of sin from the sanctuary.
Now, we know why he entered into the Holy of Holies, to make a judgment for the dead, investigate those who died, what they knew, and what they did, so that they are justified, so that they are judged. And then he will finally end up with the judgment of the living. It's there in Great Controversy, page 483. You can read for yourself. These are the two sections of the work of Christ in the Holy of Holies. What is it that he is judging the people? What did they know? According to these four laws, what did the people know? Though there are some who did not know the Sabbath, that it is on Saturday. God investigated what they knew. And were they loyal to what they knew? So when he comes to those who are in the judgment of the living, now is where Elijah has come with all the four laws. The investigative judgment is when it extends to the living, wants to see all the four laws, so that you are judged with what you heard and proved from the scripture that it was correct. Did you do it? Or did some people cause you not to do it? This is what God is doing. Peradventure, he carries in heaven the people who are going to rebel like Lucifer. Because Lucifer rebelled on these laws. So he's causing the people to rebel by not keeping these laws. There should be four. Much as any government. We have heard from the scriptures that there's a government in heaven. And when there's a government in heaven, it's got the statutory laws which govern the people of the universe. So much as we have earthly governments with statutory laws and which should be kept, God also has his statutory laws and the commandments. All of them, four laws, they should be adhered to. This is what he is investigating when he is in the Holy of Holies. Now, let's hear more there.
As in the typical service, there was a work of atonement at the close of the year.
Yes.
So before Christ's work for the redemption of men is completed, there is a work of atonement for the removal of sin from the sanctuary.
Right. So that is from GC 88, space 421 and second paragraph. So it says, as in the typical service, there was a work of atonement at the close of the year. So how was Moses conducting in the typical service? He went into the Holy of Holies. The priest went into the Holy of Holies in the Day of Atonement and was operating the holy place. And now in the Day of Atonement, went into the Holy of Holies. And we're told on 22nd October, Christ entered the Holy of Holies. And what did he do? He was in accordance with what the priest was doing on earth. So on that day, every year, when it comes that day, when he is in the Holy of Holies, every year, that date is for checking all names and making sure those who are not adhering to the law, he removes from the book of life. There is a work of cleansing. There is a work of atonement at the close of the year. So before Christ's work for the redemption of men is completed, there is a work of atonement for the removal of sin from the sanctuary. He starts with those who died and sees what happened in their life. What did they believe? What were they? What did the Bible say to them? Did they understand that? And those who rejected, did they reject? And he takes them off from the book of life. So that's the work he's doing. And when he comes to those judgment of the living, those who are still alive until he comes, it's a terrible ordeal, because he will investigate what Elijah has taught them, the 4 laws. He says in Malachi chapter 4, verse 4 to 5, remember ye the law that I gave in Mount Horeb, with the statutes and judgment that he gave to Moses. Behold, I'll send Elijah before the great and dreadful day. That's the verse I'm reading. That he is going to introduce those statutes and judgment. That's Elijah coming into the time of the sealing process to make sure we are sealed by the whole law, not only the 10 commandments, but the whole law, including the statutory laws, so that we belong to the sanctuary above, or the government above, religiously. This is what God is doing. Now here, let's read where there is a work of removal of sin from the sanctuary. Yeah, this is the service.
This is the service which began when the 2,300 days ended.
This is a fundamental belief.
Yeah.
That Daniel saw in Daniel chapter 8, verse 13 to 14, unto 2,300 days. Because these laws were being trampled. How long shall be this abomination that make it desolate? How was it making desolate? The man of sin was trampling on top of the statutory laws and the commandments. This is what we saw in Daniel chapter 7, verse 25. It's the statutory laws that the man of sin was changing. So the question is to Daniel chapter 8, verse 13 to 14. How long is he going to do this? Then the answer was, unto 2,300 days shall the sanctuary be cleansed. When did these years, 2,300 days, begin? In 457 BC, at the command by Artaxerxes to Ezra to start rebuilding the temple, the 3rd decree. 457 was marking the beginning of the 2,300 days, which ended in 1844 in October, when Christ entered the Holy of Holies on the Day of Atonement. 22 October was the 10th day in the Jewish calendar. That's why he puts us back to the Jewish calendar. That's the biblical calendar which he was using. Unto 2,300 days ended in 1844. That's why that year, 1844, to all believers, all Adventists, is a very crucial, fundamental belief. because it marks the beginning or the end of the 2,300 days. Now, let's hear at that time.
At that time, as foretold by Daniel the prophet, our high priest entered the most holy to perform the last division of his solemn work, to cleanse the sanctuary.
This is GC 88 space 421.2. This is a fundamental belief. That is the time he entered the Holy of Holies in the earthly sanctuary or in the earthly temple. Now, let's hear more from TN3 space 19.2 from the foregoing facts.
19.2.
Yeah.
From
point 1.
From the foregoing facts, clear and distinct,
right?
The only tenable conclusion to be drawn is that Christ immediately entered his ascension, rather that entering within the veil in the sanctuary, sat down at the right hand of his Father in paradise, and from there carried on his work in the holy apartment of the sanctuary.
So we see when he entered from his ascension, he entered the first throne, which is in Revelation 22, which is the throne of God and the Lamb, and is set at the right hand. This is what we are reading. And then let's hear. So we saw that there are these divisions. That's the divisions. The last division, Christ should be born to the holiest to finish the work of the redemption. I'm continuing reading where you left. And then it says, which clearly is 1844. Up to this point, the two thrones, which is Revelation chapter 22 and Revelation chapter 4, are clear. We have gone so far with these two thrones, and they are clear. The former being the eternal throne, the latter being the judicial throne. So we now know what their names. The one in Revelation 22 is the eternal throne, and the one in Revelation chapter 4 is the judicial throne. That's where the judgment is occurring from 1844. Right? The key to understand, start from there.
The key to understanding these last two thrones is that with these thrones, God is sending his messages.
When we are talking of thrones, God is sending messages in the throne. So when he entered the judicial throne in 1844, that's where we saw Sister White being given the third angel's message. So there, because William Miller, head teacher, had sent the first and the second angel's message in Revelation 14, verse 6, up to 8. But on Revelation 14, verse 9, we saw now Christ, after entering the Holy of Holies, started also sending Sister White the third angel's message. So it's proof enough he is in the throne sending that message. And we are finding that from these thrones, Christ sent all messages. Yeah? And if so, start where he says the key to understanding.
The key to understanding these last two thrones is that with these thrones, God is sending his messages. And if two, it implies two messages communicated to the prophets. This fact is quickly seen from 1. And he said unto me.
We are reading from Ezekiel chapter 3, verse 4 to 6. Yeah.
And he said unto me, continues the prophet, Son of man, go, get thee unto the house of Israel, and speak with my words unto them.
Right.
For thou art not sent
so
to a
when
people.
He is in the throne, if send that verse in Ezekiel, he says, Son of man,
go get
thee unto the house of Israel. God is not haphazard in sending. When he's sending Ezekiel, who is standing for the prophet he is using from 1844 up to now, when he is sending messages, He said these all messages coming from the throne are going to the house of Israel. So we see when Sister White entered in 1844, Sister White started preaching the third angel's message. They were coming from the throne. Already 2 had gone. Yeah? 2 had been preached by William Miller, the first and the second angel's message. And Sister White preaching the third when Christ is in the Holy of Holies. But descending was still the same to the house of Israel. These prophets with the messages were being sent to the house of Israel. I've seen people saying, why do you preach to those who are keeping the 10 Commandments already? Why don't you go to the Gentiles who haven't started keeping them? No, the commission is, go to the house of Israel. That's where the commission is. There's no way God will send messages to the house of Israel at the same time sending to the Gentiles. It has never worked like that. Even when they preached the 144,000, those who received the Pentecostal, the disciples in AD 31, they preached in the house of Israel first. Before AD 34, when the close of probation for the house of Israel occurred, they were now going to go to the Gentiles through Paul. So there is no way God is so haphazard. We see people who are Sabbath keepers preaching to Gentiles. They don't know the gospel commission. Because the gospel commission right now, when judgment begins in the house of God, the sealing process is in the house of Israel, not yet gone out. They have to concentrate on these messages coming from the Holy of Holies first and get the seal first before the seal extends to the Gentiles. So God has no confusion like that. He needs us to know his gospel commission is now going to the house of God. The messages are coming from the Holy of Holies, with Christ sending these messages. He sent the message through Sister White to the house of Israel. And he continues to send them until close of probation of the house of Israel occurs. Then the message is sent to the Gentiles. Now let's hear the commission. Now we are seeing on Ezekiel chapter 3, verse 4 to 6. Have you finished that one? Read from starting. And he said, Son of man, there.
And he said unto me, continues the prophet, Son of man, go get thee unto the house of Israel, and speak with my words unto them. For thou art not sent to a people of a strange speech and of a hard language.
Now, God is so specific. Thou art not sent in capital letters. In capital letters, you are not sent to the Gentiles yet. You should adhere to the gospel commission. Why should you concentrate in the house of Israel? Because the message is coming from the throne. Go to the house of Israel first. Thou art not sent to the Gentiles yet. It says, because their speech, for thou art not sent to the people of strange speech. You are sent to those who know the spirit of prophecy. Those who are adhered to the voice of prophecy first. Because you talk about this voice of prophecy in other in Gentiles outside, they don't know what you're talking about. That's why God says strange speech and hard language. You say, Sister White said, they'll say, who is this Sister White? So he sends the messages straight to those who have been groomed by the voice of prophecy. Now here, for thou art not sent to a people of strange speech and of an hard language. He sends to those who are acquainted with his messages and with his spirit of prophecy books. We use the same great controversy here because we know those who are listening know that this is a correct book. But you cannot use it there because they have no proof that we all have as Sabbath keepers, that Sister White was ordained by God to inspire the church. we all know is correct when it comes from Sister White. That's why God says, I'm not sending you out yet. I'm sending you there where you use the spirit of prophecy. That's why when he uses the messengers this time, he will use those who have been qualified by the unction of the Spirit. Why? By the unction of the books of the spirit of prophecy. Not those who concentrate on learning big words from philosophers and whatever, and ignore the voice of prophecy. The spirit of prophecy is what makes us a peculiar people. So God is saying, I'm sending you to those who are acquainted with our language, which is the voice of prophecy. Now, read on, let's hear. For thou art not sent.
For thou art not sent to a people of a strange speech and of an hard language, whose words thou canst not understand.
We don't understand these big words coming with theology. We don't understand them. You tell me about scatologically this and that exegesis and whatever. We don't understand them. We understand what is in the Bible and the spirit of prophecy. In simple language, English language, we understand those ones. Don't come with big words. We won't understand what you are talking about. Now here, let's hear in 6 verse 9, it says, whom shall I send? Listen to that. Go to Isaiah 6 verse 8 first.
Whom shall I send?
No, and also I heard the voice.
And also I heard.
Verse 8, Isaiah 6 verse 8, yeah.
And also I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send? And who will go for us? Then said I, here am I, send me.
Right. As a prophet. Why would God express that way and say, who shall I send? This is our time. These two are mobile ones. So they move with time. They are moving with us. He says to us, whom shall I send? Did you hear? That's a strange question. When you have so many ordained pastors and ordained ministers in Laodicea. But there's an expression to say, who shall I send? What are they filling their head with? Not with this voice of prophecy. They have all these big words of philosophers. And God cannot send that. He has clearly said in Desire of Ages, if John was trained from this theologian school, he was not going to use them. Go in Desire of Ages, page 101. It will tell you exactly. It says they use these words that God does not send. God uses words which are clear in the Bible and the spirit of prophecy. And he wants those who have been trained by the unction of the Spirit. That's why he is asking, who shall I send? Who shall I send? Why? Because he wants those who are already in the road to purify themselves. How? Making sure they adhere to the diet that God has sent. Clear the mind. Making sure they are yearning for the word of God. Like a hungry, that's why there is a blessing to being hungry in faith. Hungry to dig deeper. Without bias, without prejudice, without any idol forcing you to not to hear what God says. These are the people God is looking for. Who shall I send? Because he says many of them will have this message from Elijah. But they will go to those with the scatology and with theology and whatever you can talk about to darken them so that they don't receive this. Because it says theology only serves to darken. It says so. The scripture is there. So they go to be darkened instead of listening to the word from the prophet, the statutes and because the prophet won't give any word coming from his mouth, but will say, thus saith the Lord, to the law and to the testimony. But the people are so inclined to listen to fables, so inclined to listen to things that are not a thus saith the Lord. That's why God is saying, who then shall I send? Now here it says, I heard a voice, whom shall I send? Because everybody has been, the web has worked all the heads that they are not inclined to listen to the festivals. That's why he's asking, who then shall I send? Now, Isaiah, in Isaiah chapter 6, verse 9, answers it. Thank God there are people who say, here am I, send me. That's the mobile throne in our time. There's a question to say, who shall I send? Remember, even when Matthew chapter 20 talked about the 5 calls, the 11th hour call, they were found idle. They were found idle, and they were even answering that there's no one who has given us work. At that time, when we are breaking and saying we are powerful, we have got so many ministers here and there, we only have people who have been groomed in a wrong way, which God says, I want those from the unction of the Spirit. That's what God is looking for. Only those who are studying the spirit of prophecy. Only those who are studying the Bible in conjunction to the spirit, to the law and to the testimony is what God is looking for. Now here it says, who shall I send? Whom shall I send? And who will go for us? That's God asking, who will go for us? Then said I, here am I, send me. Isaiah 6 verse 9. And he said,
go and tell this people, hear ye indeed, but understand not, and see ye indeed, but perceive not.
Go to the people who hear and don't understand, and who see but don't perceive what they see. Is it not true? Have you not been hearing the message of these festivals? What do you say about it? It's there in the spirit of prophecy. It's there in the Bible. Elijah, indeed, in Malachi chapter 4, verse 4 to 5, is being sent with the statutes, with the festivals. But people are quiet. They are inclined to look for someone to deceive them. So God says they hear, but hear not. And they see people keeping the statutes 3 times a year. Pentecost, everywhere. They see them. But they perceive not. This is in Ezekiel. We have been told in Isaiah that they hear. And that's where we are being sent. To those who, instead, when you say you are talking about that, they'll just say, no, it's not our syllabus. No, even when they see it in the Bible, they just say it's not our syllabus. It's not in our manual. Who wrote those manuals? It's not the Bible. It's the men. The men wrote those manuals. So hear what God says in the Bible and the spirit of prophets. He says they see, but they perceive not. They hear, but they hear not. That's where the prophet is sent. Is sent to the people like that. And the prophet is well equipped and knowing who he is sent to. People who hear and hear not. And when he's talking to the then Gentiles, he says, when their time comes, I'll simply hiss. They won't argue. That's why it is a great number which no man can, greater multitude which no man can number in Revelation chapter 14 verse 9. Or in Revelation chapter 7 verse 9. A greater multitude which no man can number, from people's tongues, multitudes coming from the Gentile forces, but from the house of Israel, the house of God. They hear, they don't perceive. They see not. They pretend not to see. We know this is their surname. We know the Laodiceans, that's their surname. And God has sent us to them, those who don't even see. They see, but they perceive not. They pretend not, they didn't see. You put even a post on Facebook, it stays 2 weeks without a like. They have seen it, but they see not. They hear the videos from BSM TV, but they don't perceive what is being said. This is what we have been seeing in Isaiah chapter 6, verse 9. And God has said, I will tell you exactly where I'm sending you to the house of Israel. They see, but they see not. They hear and perceive not. So the prophet is sent knowing purely clear, like it was in the days when he sent Jonah. Jonah had to go to Tarshish, running away, knowing that in Nineveh, when I go there, they are so hard. But he says Jonah did a good work. Those in Nineveh repented. Noah was sent and was told exactly what people were going to do. So the prophet will be knowing exactly what people will do. But for the sake of the one who sent Noah, he continued. For the sake of the one who sent Jonah, he continued. For the sake of the one who said, this is how all prophets have been working. They are told exactly the recipient, their spirit and their attitude. We've been told here. And Sister White says, Elijah shall be sent. And those who hear Elijah will say, you are too earnest. You don't interpret the scriptures right. Let me show you how to. All that is to prepare the prophet of the last time to know I am going to meet people who say that. And is not even bothered because it's well prepared. Now here it says, let's go there. Because of time and space, we'll not deal with the symbolism too much in Ezekiel 1. This is what the Spirit of Prophet is saying. These mandatory words, listen to that. Let's hear.
These mandatory words of weighty significance to all reveal that the message which the prophet received is only for God's people, and that therefore, by logical extension, the vision of which it is a part meets its fulfillment at a time in which the Lord sends forth the warning that because his church is at a very low spiritually, impudent and hard-hearted, and a rebellious house, he will do within it a work of marking and slaying.
Why did God devise the way of sealing? It's because we are hard. He knows the church is hard. That's why he comes with one or two who say yes. That's why he has a sealing process. Because he knows how, if you hear a prophet being sent, there's something wrong. Otherwise, there's no need to send a prophet if everything is fine. If he promises a prophet, in Malachi chapter 4, there's something wrong. That should indicate to you that there's something wrong. You know, when David sinned, took Uriah's wife, he was sent Nathan, the prophet. If he did not do that, no prophet was going to come. So when God promises that in the last day, he sends a prophet, you know for sure where we are? The church is at a low ebb. That's what the Spirit of Prophet says. It is at a low ebb. It's loud this year, neither for Passover nor for Easter. So it is at a low ebb. That's why God sends a prophet. There's nothing good. Don't pretend all is fine. We are hoping to the Pelicans anytime. Powerful, powerful. Don't pretend that. The scriptures tell us exactly how it looks like. So it's at a low ebb. He is about to slay. But Christ cried for his blood. For he saw some people who were not part of the crimes of rejecting the message. So that's why he devised a way of sealing, of showing a message, and those who will accept the message will run away from that slaughter. That's what he does. He did it in the time of Sodom and Gomorrah. Sent 3 angels to Lot, to Abraham first. He knew there was something bad in Sodom. That's why he sent these men. And they were given even chance to say, whoever wants to come will come. They refused. Even the wife of Lot refused. He sent Noah in the time of the antediluvian. because there was nothing okay. He knew that they were going to refuse, and only 8 were going to accept the ark. When people saw the ark being built, they were wondering how many people would fill the ark if Noah's message is true. There should be a big ark than what they built. But God knew there were only 8. That's why they built the ark. They were going to build mansions of things that are going to be rescued. But he built the ark because he knew that even the 8 won't fill the ark. Now we are being told in Jerusalem, everyone is going to be established. The kingdom is in Jerusalem. And there are many people say, how can the whole world fill in that small country? Yes, he knows they are just going to be 144,000 on that day when he stands on Mount Zion. There's no billions of billions that we break and say we are billions in this country, billions in that country, billions in that. This is fallacy and fantasy. The fact that we only saw 144,000 standing on Mount Zion, they are the ones who came from the church. It's a miserable number. Why? Because everybody is listening to idols that speak vanity. It says so. It says in Zechariah chapter 10, verse 2, it says, there will be idols in the time of the latter rain. Pray for rain in the time of the latter rain, because the idols that speak vanity will be there. They will be telling them there's no kingdom, there's no what, we are waiting, anytime we can hop in the cloud, blah, 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 blah. Can't you see them? Idols that speak vanity. When the kingdom is being prepared, if there is no kingdom in Jerusalem, why is there so much? That's very Zechariah 14, talking about wars, focused in the same area. Wars. Why wouldn't we be talking about wars elsewhere? But they are all there. Why? They are preparing for the coming of Christ. Zechariah 14 says so. There will be all these wars. We will be saved in the time of the wars. We have been told by the Bible. So when we see them focused that side, we know exactly what is happening. We read. He that readeth is comfortable reading and praying to be delivered. So we know exactly. If there is no kingdom, we shouldn't be talking about all these wars going on, because they are all in alignment when Christ comes to stand on Mount Olives. It is before we go to heaven. It says so in Zechariah 14. He will stand. Zechariah 14 verse 4. Go to. It says so. He will stand. But it will be time for wars. So when he stands, he's not even with the clouds yet. In Thessalonians, where he says he is coming with the cloud and we will hop in the cloud. When he is coming now, when we are still different churches and everywhere, he's coming to stand on Mount Olives. Read verse 4. Zechariah 14 verse 4.
And his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives,
right,
which is before Jerusalem on the east.
Which coming is that one? When he steps on the Mount of Olives, amid the people who have, you saw from verse 1, you can see these are wars he's explaining about. And then he comes to stand, and then he creates a valley for people to now come and be ushered into Jerusalem. What are the idols that speak vanity telling you? We'll go to heaven. Our Jerusalem is in heaven. And this and that and that and that. Idols that speak vanity. Now he says, and they say so without even proof for anyway. They only read Thessalonians first. But all the events that have been happening before Thessalonians chapter 4, they don't know them. They don't even know the Old Testament. They've said it's all past, all that. But we are reading what will happen when Christ comes in the Old Testament. Zechariah chapter 14 clearly says he's going to stand on Mount Olives amidst the time of the wars. He is going to stand there. So this is the time to listen to a thus saith the Lord. Look for the Elijah and get the message and get the seal. It's only a few. The narrow road will come with only a few, not the bulk. The bulk call it goodbye. Now here it says, he will do within it. Listen to that. I wanted you to say, to start where it says, the Lord sends forth the warning that because his church is at a very low ebb spiritually. That's what it is in the spirit of prophecy. Never hear all these lip services saying we are, yeah. Never listen to them. Listen to the spirit of prophecy says it is at a low ebb. Spiritually low this time. It is at a low ebb, impudent and hard-hearted. That's what it is like right now. And a rebellious house. Are they not rebellious? Yes, that's how it is right now. All the messages of the festivals, they shun. They shun those messages about the festivals. That's being rebellious to the government of heaven. So all this is proof enough. This is the time these moving thrones are at work. Now listen, what will God do at this time?
He will do within it a work of marking and slaying.
Is he not marking right now? And then after marking, do you expect a slaying? Right? It's there in the spirit of prophecy. Listen to that.
And in all the Bible, there is to be found in but one church a situation as to condition, cause, time, and result answering to that of the prophecy, and that is in Laodicean church.
It's already in prophecy. Laodiceans are in prophecy. We saw in Revelation chapter 3, verse 14, they are in prophecy. And in the Isaiah chapter 1, verse 6, chapter 6, verse 9, they are in prophecy. Ezekiel chapter 4, chapter 1, verse 4 to 6, they are in prophecy. A rebellious house, a house, those who know the language of the spirit of prophecy, but rebellious. That's why God is saying, I'm not sending them. I'm sending it to the rebellious house. They won't even understand what you say. They won't even give you a chance. When Sister White also proves it in Testimonies to Ministers, page 475, that somebody is to come. But when that person comes, they'll say you are too earnest. You don't interpret the scriptures. It's at a low ebb. And you can find it very much in 3T 252. It will tell you exactly what greater deception can a mind come than a confidence that we are right when we are all wrong. It says so. I'm reading what the spirit of prophecy says. Now listen to the next paragraph there. It's talking about this the throne. And he said unto me.
And he said unto me, Son of man.
We are in Ezekiel 1 verse 2 there.
I send thee to the children of Israel.
So God continues to repeat that where I am sending you is not to the Gentiles, to the children of Israel themselves, the house of God, Laodiceans. Listen to that.
To a rebellious nation,
right,
that hath rebelled against me.
Do you see what God says? When we refuse his laws of his government, we are rebelling. I said there's no government without statutory laws. God has got statutory laws. The new moons are still there in heaven. And they're still there in the new earth. But we don't have them in our syllabus. That's rebellion. There's no Passover. At least some have got Easter. We don't have nothing. No Passover. And if we have the Feast of the Tabernacle, it's in a wrong date. God just says a rebellious house. The Lord's Supper, it actually, the word says supper, meaning night. It's at 11 o'clock in the morning. This is a rebellious house where Ezekiel is being sent. Ezekiel is in our stead in the time of God sending Elijah. Right, listen to that.
And he said unto me, Son of man, I send thee to the children of Israel, to a rebellious nation that hath rebelled against me.
You see?
They and their fathers have transgressed against me.
So Israel, the children, is the spiritual Israel. It's not the Israel by flesh which walked out of Egypt.
Yeah.
Those are called our fathers. And the children is now spiritual Israel. They and their fathers. Did we see them against the statutes in the wilderness? Go to the verse in the estate and go to Ezekiel chapter 20, verse 11, where they also with the same syndrome of rejecting the festivals or the statutes. We want to see. That's why God is saying they in Ezekiel chapter 1, he says they and their fathers.
Ezekiel 20, verse 11.
Yeah.
And I gave them my statutes.
Do you see that?
And shewed them my judgments. Which if a man do, he shall even live in them. Moreover also I gave them my Sabbath to be a sign between me and them, that they might know.
So you see, our fathers were given the statutes.
Yes.
And the judgments, which Elijah is being sent right now, the statutes and judgment. Listen to that.
But the house of Israel rebelled against me in the wilderness.
They did not accept them. And this is exactly what is happening to spiritual Israel. It's not accepting them. They rebelled. These are the statutes that have been rebelled by the devil in heaven, and rebelled also in the wilderness, and rebelled today. Same coming from Lucifer. Now, here it says, I gave them. Go to verse 18, Ezekiel chapter 20, verse 18.
Verse 18.
Yeah.
But I said unto their children in the wilderness, walk ye not in the statutes of your fathers.
Do you see what happened? What do we do? We are walking in the statutes of our fathers. Do you not hear all these Mother's Days, Father's Days, Uncle's Days, Valentine, anniversaries, what birthday, whatever? These are statutes of your fathers. Walk not in the statutes of your fathers. There, many are swimming there. Even those who love the message, they are swimming there. But the spiritual prophecy is clear that they will rather have a big function of their birthday than a new moon. So clear. They are making sure they uphold the statutes of their fathers. So we have, ever since we were born, in our birthday, we had in a Valentine, I didn't get my chocolate, whatever they give each other, and in this and that. No, this is the statutes of your father. Walk not in the statutes of your father. Repeat that verse.
But I said unto their children in the wilderness, walk ye not in the statutes of your fathers,
right?
Neither observe their judgments.
Do you say that?
Nor defile yourselves with their idols.
You are defiling yourself with these idols. But then, listen, 19.
I am the Lord, your God. Walk in my statutes.
Walk in God's statutes.
And keep my judgments.
And keep those judgments.
And do them.
So when he sends Elijah, which message comes? Malachi chapter 4.
Statutes and judgments.
Right, read it. 4 verse 4.
Remember ye the law of Moses my servant, which I commanded unto him in Horeb for all Israel.
Right.
With the statutes and judgments.
You see now Elijah comes with the statutes of God. God's statutes. To wipe away all the statutes of your fathers. All those that you have had, baby shower, whatever. They will eat and drink and be merry and stand up and play and whatever. That is what God has banned. Says, stop those statutes of your fathers and walk in my statutes. That's why you see them so vast these days. Why? They're trying to be rebellious. Says, tell them that they are rebellious. Now, let's hear more here. Go back to the paragraph where it is 1.13, first paragraph, where we have been reading from the book of Ezekiel chapter 1. So it says, chapter 2, verse 3 to 6 is where we are reading.
And he said unto me, Son of man, I send thee to the children of Israel,
right? To
the rebellious house, to the rebellious nation,
right,
that hath rebelled against me. They and their fathers have transgressed against me, even unto this very day.
Right.
For they are impudent children, and stiff-hearted.
Do you see what they are?
I do send thee unto them And thou shalt say unto them, Thus saith the Lord of God.
All
Lord
you
God.
do to them is just to read from the Bible, spirit of prophecy. Thus saith the Lord. Finish. Whether they like you or they hate you, give them a thus saith the Lord. That's where we have been sent there. Then they would try to divert you and say, go to those who don't know God. No. To those who know God. To the house of Israel, the Laodicean. Just give them a thus saith the Lord. Whether they will hear or they won't hear. God has said all that. When they don't hear, we say, they never know that it's already written. What they are doing is exactly written. That's where we find our comfort. We are to divulge the information. Like in Matthew chapter 24, verse 14, it says, this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the nations for a witness, and the end shall come. It did not say for them to be repented. No, for a witness. They had it. God wants, when he slays and when he judges, he wants to know that this is proper when he comes to slay. Why? Because he knows you heard it. You heard it. So our duty is to make sure that commission is done of people hearing it. Not converted. No, we are not so much on that. Thank goodness if it is there. But we are on a commission to make sure it is heard. It is heard. Finish. Now here it says, for they are impudent children and stiff-hearted. Did you hear that? I do send thee unto them, and thou shalt say unto them, thus saith the Lord God. And then let's say, and they?
And they, whether they will hear or whether they will forbear, for they are a rebellious house.
That's why when we put even a quotation on Facebook, whether you look at it or you don't, but the commission has been obeyed. Whether they will hear or forbear or what, our duty is just to make sure it is done. It is said.
Yet shall know that there hath been a prophet among them.
But they will know there was a prophet.
Though they be a rebellious house.
Though they won't even accept it, they are rebellious. We know that. We have been told clear by God what to expect. And we are comfortable with that. Say it. Whether they hear or they close their ears, say it. But they will know there was a prophet. It can't be that without a prophet. Say it. Now here it says, what message then is that? Let's want to know what is this message that is going to be sent by Elijah in the time. Ezekiel will say it, Ezekiel chapter 2 verse 4.
For they are impudent
You
children
see?
and sly-hearted.
I do send thee unto them, and thou shalt say unto them, thus saith the Lord. That's all. Don't waste time arguing. God said, keep the statutes, the festivals. Whether they say scatologically, this, just say it. And they will know after you have gone that it was a prophet. Say it. Don't be scared. God has said it. And then let's read from Ezekiel 3 verse 26.
And I said, the Lord, will make thy tongue cleave to the roof of thy mouth, that thou shalt be dumb. But when I speak with thee, I will open thy mouth.
Whether you are dumb, and you go to other things of the world, they are talking about football, they're talking about what? They are all Greek to you. You are dumb to them. You go to whatever, they are dumb. But whatever is to do with that message of a thus saith the Lord, God opens your mouth. Whether you know English or not, they will hear with that stammering tongue. That's what he says. I will send babies with stammering tongues. It did not say go and look for fluency or whatever. No. You won't find that fluency. You won't find it. Whatever comes from your mouth, push it out. They were here, push it out. And here was saying, but when I
speak with thee, I will open thy mouth.
Right.
And thou shalt say unto them,
Thus saith the Lord. What is the name of the message? Thus saith the Lord. So it means all that is Elijah's message should be found in the Bible and Spirit of Prophecy. What have they been learning? They have not been learning, thus saith the Lord. You can see they've all these other books that are produced by their idols. They are reading them. They are concentrating on those books that are not thus saith the Lord. Give them the Bible and the Spirit of Prophecy. That's it, thus saith the Lord. And concentrate on Elijah's message, the statutes and judgments. That's the message of the hour. And thus saith the Lord, and he that heareth, let him hear. And he that forbeareth, let him forbear. For they are a rebellious house. That's Ezekiel chapter 3, verse 26 and 27. Let's hear more. The messengers being made dumb. Did you hear that? The commentary in TN 128.
The messengers being made dumb,
right,
can speak only when he opens their mouths.
They can only speak when God opens the mouth.
And only what he puts in their mouth.
And what they speak is what God has put in their mouth. Do you understand? Right?
And thus saith the Lord God.
And thus saith the Lord, coming from Elijah.
Taking
no credit to themselves.
They are to exalt inspiration.
They don't take credit to them to say, oh, the glory should come to me. No. They only say, thus saith the Lord. No credit to myself, nothing. They are to exalt inspiration. And thus saith the Lord from this quotation. It doesn't come from me. No credit from me. But from inspiration, we do give you the quotes, everything, so that you know it's not coming from me. The Bible verses, the quotations, and no credit comes to me. It's what God wrote and what the Spirit of Prophecy is upholding. That's all we do. Take it to the people. These messengers are rightly represented. Listen to that. We are reading now from 37.2 TN1.
These messengers are rightly represented in this symbolism, namely, the fact, therefore, that from the chariot the Lord commands the prophet to go and speak, bear the message to his people, and that the message totals over
1,250 pages. We have, whether how many pages we are reading, whether 1,000 of what, 1,090, or whatever you can say, how many messages we have been reading. You can count the pages. Billions. Read them and give to the people. So it's unfolding its truth from different angles. Solemn. With this Malachi chapter 4 comes almost every message. You come this way, the statutes and judgments come. That way, they come. From all angles, they reveal what the chariot has brought, the statutes and judgments. Yeah? Through invisible human beings supporting Elijah, they come and give the message of the time to the people. You understand? All right. Now let's hear, or maybe we can leave this one when we start next time, so that we are seeing the moving chariots, which is Ezekiel and Isaiah. What are they? The moving temples. What are they bringing to the people? Messages of this time. That's why they are moving. They've been bringing messages all along, and now they are filling the temple, bringing the messages for this time. We're going to continue with this subject until we understand why we should be studying these temples. And are they elevating our spiritual life? Are they making us know exactly where we are and what time is left for us to be saved, and what we are supposed to do in a on a daily basis so that we can live in happiness with this message of the hour and be found in the ark like the 8 who were found in the ark with Noah, the prophet of the time. May God bless you as we present these messages and enjoy studying them together as they are making us transformed and be changed in the likeness of our Maker.